Hey, let's click on our next sheet tab, cash discounts. This is our next major section in Chapter 6. There's trade discounts. That's just the difference between the list and the cost, and then cash discounts. As we mentioned earlier, they are completely different things. And a cash discount, that's when you have an invoice total. It's sitting there on your desk, and the terms say, hey, if you pay by a certain day, we'll give you a small discount. That's a cash discount. Cash discounts are given when you pay the invoice total early. They are incentive to pay early. Yeah, why in the world would people do this anyway? We agreed upon the net cost. Why in the world would they give us some little small discount? Guess what? It's an incentive for you to pay early because businesses need cash as quickly as possible. If they run out of cash, then they go out of business. So it's an incentive to pay early. Let's click on our next sheet tab here, Invoice 3.2. This is just a repeat of one of our earlier invoices. I just highlighted here. Is that better? Can you see that better right there? Oh, that went the wrong way. By the way, if you hold your mouse and hold Control and roll your mouse ball or wheel, it'll increase the size. Hey, 210 net 30. Better figure out what that means. We already talked about it earlier. It means 2% discount if you paid within 10 days. Otherwise, please pay the whole net amount in 30. So let's go ahead. We're going to use this invoice and figure out if we can, we're going to pay on a day, and then we're going to figure out if we get the discount, the cash discount, and then if we do get it, we'll figure out how much it is and what the invoice total is. All right, let's go. Click on Ordinary Dating Method. Example 1. Invoice 55216 total. What is it? We're going to do a sheet reference. Click in cell B2 equals. Click on this invoice 3 and then in parentheses 2. And there's the total right there, 2,345. Enter. Invoice date equals. Click on the invoice here. The date, 2/23/2007. Enter. Terms. I'm going to say equals. Click on this sheet and go ahead and click on, that's a whole merged cell. Look at that template. It merged across all sorts of cells there. And guess what? That won't work for a sheet reference. See up here, look up at our formula bar. That's why merged cells are never that good. But we can figure this out, I guess. It says D22 to K22. That's like a whole range. If you try to put a whole range in one cell, it'll give you an error. You can't do that. So let's go ahead and put our cursor up in the formula bar, and I'm going to backspace, and get rid of that colon. Now it's just D2, and that'll work just fine. Enter. If it didn't work, you can just type it in, 210 net 30. Now, what we need to do is break this apart and figure out what each one is. What is that 2? It's a percent discount on total invoice amount. So I'm going to type 2%. This 10 right here, number of days from the invoice date count from the day after the invoice date that you are allowed to take the discount. So if we take the discount within 10 days of 2/23/2007, they'll give us a discount. So I'm going to put the number 10 here. If you don't take the discount, you must pay within this number of days. Oh yeah, that's what the 30 means right there. Now I got to show you one of the coolest things ever in the history of all the world. It's called date math in Excel, back in a Lotus 2, and it is just amazing. You can look in the textbook. In fact, in Chapter 6, let's see if I can show you the page number. There's a great thing that I used to have to do a lot of invoices and calculating discounts and all that kind of stuff. Let's just look on page, you can open your textbook, and it should be, don't see it. Where is it? It's one of these pages here. It's the knuckle diagram, It shows you how to count, here it is. It's on page 238 in our textbook, depending on which textbook version you have. It's in the 6.3 section, Cash Discounts Ordinary Dating Method. It shows you the knuckle method. There's also a song that I once heard. something about past September or something to remember how many days are in what month. Because the problem with doing invoices before there was Excel is each month has a different number of days, so you actually had to count on your fingers. I did the Knuckle Trick, but I also carried a little card in my wallet. Whenever I had to do invoices, I would take it out and see how many days, and you'd have to count sometimes through multiple months, and it was a huge hassle. You just don't have to mess with any of that stuff. I mean, the Knuckle Trick's cool if you're out there without Excel to, figure out how many days are in this month, but forget it. You'd never do invoicing. You'd also never do interest on loans and stuff, accounts payable, accounts receivable, banks. They all used to have to do this all the time to calculate interest. That'll be chapter 8 and 9. And basically spreadsheets and date math revolutionized this. Now let's go ahead and click in cell B10. I'm going to show you how easy it is to calculate the discount date and the due date. Now if you remember from the first introduction in Excel and chapter, the introduction, we talked a lot about format. I want you to click on the date right here. Notice, well, let's click on this date right here, 3/3/2007. Notice even up in the formula bar it shows 3/3/2007. But guess what? That is not what is in the cell. Formatting tricks most people in Excel. Whether it's the decimals or time or in this case date. That is not what's in the cell. We may see it because what's displayed is proper date format, but that's not what is in the cell. I want you to hit Control tilde. We've looked at this a few times. Tilde is to the left of the number 1. Control tilde. It puts us into formula auditing mode. You guys don't have a problem because you have it maximized. I have to use my scroll bar. Don't adjust the columns. Notice there's my cursor. It says 39,144. That is what's in the cell. Control tilde back. You can see the date. That's the format. Control tilde again. That's what's really in the cell. It is a number. That is the way date math is going to work. That's the number of days since January 1st, 1900. That way we can subtract a later date, take a later date and subtract an earlier date, and it will tell us the number of days between those dates. Guess what? Excel knows leap year too. It's unbelievable. Control tilde to get back, and then move your scroll bar if you. There it is. So we have that date and this date. There's two things. One, we're going to down here subtract dates to get the difference. Here, we're going to actually take a date and just add a number. It knows how to do that. So here it is. Here's equals for the discount date, our invoice date, plus the number of days they're giving us for the discount period. That formula right there, when you hit enter, look at that. And there's a little note here and here about all of this that I'm talking about. 3/5/2007. That's the discount date. You don't know how many mistakes people have made throughout history when it comes to this kind of thing because they're counting. There's different days and days. If just we always had Excel, it would have been a lot easier. Or Lotus or any other spreadsheets that do date math. Hey, the due date, what are we going to do here? The due date is equals the actual invoice date. Oh, but instead of +10, it's +30. All right, so there it is, the due date. We have to pay by that date, but we hopefully get to pay by this day. Hey, do we pay? Let's see, what is it? If we pay on 3/3, that's the day we pay up there. How many days has it been since the invoice was posted? Now we get to do subtracting one day from another because we got to figure out, I mean, we can tell right here that if the discount date is 3/5 and we pay on 3/3, we have made the discount and we get it. But I got to show you how to subtract two dates and figure out how many days into the discount period that we paid. So here it is. Ready? Equals this date right here. This is the discount date, and March 5th is more days away from January 1st, 1900 than March 3rd. So we take the later date, subtract the earlier date. If you do it in reverse, and it even tells you here to get an error. If you do it in reverse, if you take an earlier date minus a later date, you will get an error. You'll get this kind of error. I'll even show you here just real quick. This minus this, it's not going to work. It gets really mad. Click undo. Equals, got to be a later date minus an earlier date. Then it takes 39,112 minus 39,110. Now, in just a moment, we haven't hit enter, and I'm going to hit control enter. I want you to hit control enter here. Uh-oh, there's the problem. This is what many people have done throughout the history of spreadsheets. They try to do date math, and then they get this, and they just freak out. It's just formatting. All you got to do is revert back to the general format. Now, I'm going to show you the long way, and then we're going to do the keyboard shortcut from this point out. Our Control 1 gets us format cells, number tab, general, and then you can see the sample there. It's 2 days. We did the wrong, how many days past? If we paid on 3/3, how many days has it been? We subtracted the wrong days. That's okay. This is the between this day and this day. So we actually had 2 extra days that we could have taken, but that's not what the question was here. We want to actually find out how many days it was since the actual invoice date. Equals the day we paid, which is much later in time than the original invoice date, minus the original invoice date. There you go. That formula will calculate, if only I could read right here. Control enter. Again, it's the same problem, and from now on we're going to use, and it gives you over here, it tells you, it's control shift tilde. Got to know that if you're doing invoices and date math and interest and all those kind of things that are done every day in Excel. All right, so 8 days compared to 10. Now, here, let me show you this. Do we get the discount? If you build a little template like this, get this. You could just slap in whatever days you want up here, and all of this will update. And here's one nice thing for a little template. You can say, do we get the discount? Is it true or false? Here's a formula. Equals is 8, or the number of days since the original invoice date to when we paid. Is that less than 10? If it's less than 10, we'll see true. If it's greater than, we see false. Did we get the discount? False. In our case, it's going to say, did we get the discount? True. This is called a logical formula right here. True. So how much do we have to pay? Well, here it is, 2%. There's the original. We're going to use our complement rule. You could absolutely do it in 2 steps. You could say this times 2% and take that rounded amount and subtract it from this. But we're not. We're going to do the complement amount because we know the complement of 2% is 98%, and 98% times that gives us how much we have to pay. Wow, that complement rule is so cool. Equals round, open parentheses. And I'm going to click on this number first, times, and then open parentheses 1 minus the 2%, close parentheses. So far, and you can see it up here too, but I like this color coding down here. So far, we see a blue and then green parentheses and a green cell, right? And so there's a green cell and that blue one. So that's the calculation part, and then we put comma to close parentheses. Control enter, and that's how much we pay. Let's do another example here. Example 2. Here's our invoice total, our invoice date, and the date we paid. 110 net 60. So what is the discount? 1%. Oh, I can see the percent popped up, so that means it's pre-formatted. Enter. Number of days until we get that we have to pay is 10 days. Total, oh, we have 60 days to pay this one. We're going to calculate our discount date equals the invoice date plus, I love this date math, 10. Enter. Due date equals the invoice date plus the 60. Enter. Now, if we pay on 5/10, how many days has it been since the invoice? Let's go ahead and do our date math here. Instead of adding numbers, we're going to subtract one date from another. Equals the later date, that's the day we paid, minus the day the invoice date. Control enter, control shift tilde. 9 days. Did we get the discount? Equals, is this less than? we actually could say less than or equal to that one right there. And that less than or equal to, because if it's postmarked on the 10th, you still get the discount. Enter. That's in general the rule unless your contract says something different. Let's come up here. I'm going to fix this right here. I'm going to hit F2, and that's going to be less than or equal to. We don't want to cheat ourselves out of a day. That would be terrible. Again, post dating is very common. If you have it in the mail by the date, no problem. Probably lots of us know that from paying utility bills and whatnot. However, read your contract. Sometimes it might be different. And then how much do we have to pay? Equals round, open parentheses. Oh, here's the original amount, and we're going to multiply it times the complement. 1 minus, click on that 1%, close parentheses. There's the blue, there's the green parentheses, and there's the green cell. Comma 2, close parentheses. Enter. Let's do our next example here. Example 3, we have 7,872. Hey, I already put the variables there. We have 215 net 62, 15 days, 60. The discount date is going to be equals the invoice date plus our 15. They give us 5 extra days there. Enter. So 4/8/2007. Do we get it? Oh, yeah. And the due date equals the invoice date plus our 60. I still can't believe we can add numbers like that. It makes it so much easier than those years of toiling with hand calculations for invoices. Man, where were spreadsheets when you need them? All right, if we pay on 6/7, how many days since the original invoice date did it take us to pay? Equals the day we paid minus the day of the invoice. Control Enter, Control Shift tilde. Do we get the discount? I'm just going to watch this. Click up here, Control C. The only reason why we can do this is because, of course, the template is exactly the same. Click right here, Control V. Actually, could have done that for all of us. How much do we have to pay? For practice, I'm going to say equals round, open parentheses. Click on this amount up here, times, open parentheses, green, that is, a green parentheses. Click on that 2% discount, close parentheses. Notice 2 green parentheses, a green cell reference, a blue one, comma 2, close parentheses, Control Enter. 7,715.03. Here we got 1,151.49, and up here we got 2,298 and 1. Now, I'm going to go ahead and format this just to make sure. I'm going to hold that, click that cell there, hold Control, click there, hold Control, click there, and then I'm going to click maybe that accounting there. There we go. All right, when we come back in our next vlogs, I'm going to scroll over using my Sheet tab scroll arrows. We're going to have other dating methods and then still a bunch of other different dating methods. I'm going to click on other dating methods. And actually, we'll do this one last one, and then we'll start with our other ones over here. Sometimes you'll see on the invoice it'll say, there's the invoice date, but right next to it will say as of 12/23/2006. So there it is, 12/23/2006. That actually becomes the date which you start counting everything. So let's go ahead and see if we can do this. I already put 1 because it's 1/15 net 45. So we click down here and the discount date. Notice it's 15 days. So we're going to say equal. Oh, not this one. As of this. So I'm going to click here and then plus 15. Control Enter. So January 7th, 2007. The due date is not going to be this one. Oh, as of. It's like they gave us some extra days. Plus the 45. So there it is. There's the due date. If we pay on 1/5, how many days since the invoice has been? Equals, we're going to subtract this later date minus this, minus this date right here. Because this is the original posting date. Oh, look at that. I hit Enter. I should have hit Control Enter and then Control Shift tilde. 23 days. But that's not really part of our calculation of the discount because it's actually this day. There's our due date. Do we get it? 1/5. Yes, we do. Did we get the discount? Equals is let's do it by dates this time. Is our, because there's always lots of ways to do it. How about this date right here, 1/5? Is that less than this? Because remember, underlying dates are the numbers. This is like, I don't know what the number is, but say this is 39,002. This would be 39,000 because it's 2 days before. So is this date less than that? If that's true, then we made the discount. How much do we have to pay? Equals round, open parentheses, the original invoice amount times, open parentheses, 1 minus, there's our lovely little green parentheses. Click on that one, close parentheses. We have our 2 green parentheses, our green cell reference, our blue cell reference, comma, 2 close parentheses, Control Enter. Wow, so we get to pay 1,416 and 4 pennies. And I'm going to click this. Yeah, a little discount. Now, we previously talked about, and I'm going to click back here, we did our other dating, which was the as of, and we did ordinary dating. Now, ordinary dating is by far the most common. These other, the as of, and then we're going to talk about end of month, receipt of goods, and X. These are much less common than our ordinary dating. So these ones we're going to do oftentimes are governed by contract. And so you want to look carefully, and there's lots of different variations. But we're going to do these. Hey, this one is called end of month. And this is terms right here. You might see this, 2/5 EOM. EOM is end of month. So we've got to figure out what that means. Ooh, look at this one. 2/5 procs. That's another variation on these, and they both mean the same thing. Now, you don't got to memorize these, because if you go and work in the industry and you get a job, more than likely they're going to immediately in the accounts payable or accounts receivable department say, hey, here's how we do it. Boom. And then you got to figure it out from there. Here's our invoice. We have an invoice total. Here's the invoice date. Here are our terms, and here's the day we paid it. All right, so let's talk about what 2/5 end of month means. End of month means, actually this is kind of cool. What it means is you say to the customer, hey, we know you're going to get a 2% discount if you pay within 5 days. But look at this, 5/11. If we add 5 days, it would be 5/16. But end of month means, hey, no problem. Just go to the end of the month and then add 5 days. So that would be, we know the end of the month would be the end of May. And so if we add 5 days here, this would be into June. Right? So end of the month is much more polite. Without the end of the month, we just add 5 days, because that's what that 5 means, 5 days to this 5/11. But this end of the month says, hey, go to the end of the month and then add 5 days. So you get way more time to take the discount. Now, the trick is we're going to click here, and before we do anything, we have to figure out what the end of the month is. Now, there's a special function in Excel just for this exact invoicing item, end of month. There's actually a function called EO month, end of month. Now, you need to make sure that you have this. And I want you to all click on Tools, and then go down to Add-ins, and click on Add-ins. Now, you may see variations of this, but what you want is you want to find Analysis Tool Pack and check it. And then click OK. That Analysis Tool Pack adds a bunch of extra functions. Why in the world they wouldn't put this in is beyond me. Actually, in the 2007, they knew this was a big problem because people didn't come up here and check this. And so in the next version of Excel, you don't have to do this anymore. All of the functions are available. Why they ever made us do this in 2003 and earlier versions is beyond me. But here you go. If you check this and click OK, it should add it right up. It might ask you to put your CD in. In that case, you'd have to put your CD in. Once you do that, when you go up to Insert Function, there's a whole bunch of more functions. Now, if you didn't do that, you need to just type the date in here, the end of the month. You just type it in. But if you've done the analysis toolpack, then when you go up, let's go ahead and see if we can find it. Let's click on Insert Function. And then let's go to All, under Category. And scroll down to the E section. Actually, you can click here and then hit the E, and it brings you down to E. Easter date, you've got to be kidding me. E date, I actually have a bunch of extra functions in here. EO month, there it is, end of month. Returns a serial number for the last day of the month before or after a specified number of months. Yeah, you can get the end of the month for any month in the past or the future. Let's click OK. Again, my my cursor was selecting the cell C3, so that's what the end of the month is. The start date, that's this right here. A serial date number that represents the start date. That serial date is the number underneath, the number of days since January 1st, 1900. So I'm going to click there. And then months. Now, this one, month, is the number of months before or after start date. So if you want the end of the month for the current month, you put a 0 here because you're not going to move forward any months and you're not going to move backwards any month. If you want the end of the month for next month, you'd put a 1 here. If you wanted the end of the month for last month, you'd put a -1. And if you click on Help, that'll tell you all about it. Now, why do they have this? They have the end of the month not only for our date math and because there's end of the month terms like this, but for financial statements, you need to have a way to always calculate the end of the month. And guess what? It knows leap year. It knows all the variations from month to month. So this is a great function for some financial statements that always need the end of the month or our end of the month terms. Click OK. Now, if it comes up looking like this, 39,233, just go Control 1 for Format Cells, go to Number, and then Date. And so you add a date format. Now, that's the trick. And remember, when you see end of month, it's very polite. The person doing the selling is saying, hey, start counting from the end of the month, 5 days, and that's your discount date. Now, let's go ahead and fill out our details here. The percentage discount on total invoice amount is that 2 right there. So I'm going to put 2, and it's pre-formatted. So I'm going to hit Enter. Number of days from the end of the month. Number of days since the end of the month count from the day after the end of the month. So the number of days is that 5. Now, if you don't, this is the next oddity about a term. Sometimes they leave off the net 30. Huh? What? It doesn't say net 30. Hey, if I don't take the discount, when do I pay? Well, here's the deal. Again, it depends on your industry, but a very common meaning of this, if you don't see net 30, net 45, net 60, whatever, the date is assumed to be 20 days after the due date if it's not written. So look at here. It's not written. It just says 2.5. There's the percent 2 and the number of days 5 and then end of month, but it doesn't say net. So here's how you do it. It's going to be, in this case, 20. That's what you assume. So you put 20 there. And this is, if you don't take the discount, you must pay within this number of days after the discount date. All right, now we need to figure out the discount date. Remember, end of month. So here's the end of the month, and we add 5 to it. So let's say equals this right here plus 5. There you go. And there it is, June 5th, 2007. The due date. Hey, let's look up here. 2.5 into 1. Hey, it doesn't say net anything. So if that's the case, we simply take our due date and add how many? 20. Enter.
June 25th, 2007.
Now, if we pay the invoice on 6/1/07, how many days has it been since the invoice was posted? In this case, we will call the posted date the end of the month. Remember, they were polite. Instead of using this date, they said, oh yeah, go to the end of the month and start counting everything. So how many days has it been? Remember, date math. The later date minus the earlier date. So equals the later date minus the earlier date. Control Enter. Remember, that's just formatting, so Control Shift tilde. That's our keyboard shortcut to get back to the general format. 1 day. So do we get the discount? Equals that number of days. Is it less than this number of days? Oh, look at that right there. I put a comma because I forgot to hit shift. So it's actually shift and then the greater less than. There's our formula. True, ding, 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 ding. So we get the discount. So how much do we have to pay? Equals this amount, and we're going to continue using our complement, so it's going to be times, open parentheses, 1 minus. Click on that 2%. Hey, 1 minus 2% is 98. So we're paying the part we're paying is 98% of that. Close parentheses, and then Control Enter. Hey, it looks like we're going to pay 9742. Oh, look at that right there. That would have been a terrible mistake because we can't pay 3/10 of a penny, or even 3/10 of a penny. There's no such thing. So we got to come up here and edit this. Ready? ROUND, open parentheses. That whole thing, comma, 2 close parentheses. Enter. There it is. Much better, and we can reduce the decimals. Boop, boop. Notice if you didn't, you could have disguised that there with decimals, but it wouldn't have been the right number underneath. All right, hey, let's go to our next one. That was end of month. ROG. Receipt of goods. This is for something like the wood company in Finland that sends the wood over on a boat. They're not going to have you count from the invoice date because it may take a long time to get there. So they say, hey, receipt of goods, start counting after you receive the goods. So look, 8/25, this thing was shipped out, and it was received on 9/10. So the date received becomes our the date we start counting from. Hey, look at that. There's a time there. Sometimes when you put, for instance, a now function or a today function, or a now function in particular, it'll put a time in there like that. So I want you to click here, and I want you to get rid of that time because that time will affect our calculation. So 9/10/2007. Actually, we could change this with our formatting and force the time not to be there, but we can also come up here and delete it. So occasionally you'll see dates like that where it has the time to boop, and I'm going to keep backspacing. Enter, and then I'm going to get rid of this one here too. And if we click back on that cell, we can see it's no longer got the time, and then no longer got the time. All right, so what we need to do here is look at our terms. We have our invoice, the invoice date, our date received, and that's going to be our starting point for us, and then we have a date paid. So what in the world is this 3/15 receipt of goods? Well, 3 means a 3% discount. That 15 means 15 days, but 15 days from where? Not the invoice, from the receipt date. So if we pay within 15 days of our date received, they'll give us a 3% discount. Here's our variables. We have our 3% for percentage discount, number of days since the invoice. This right here is not from the invoice dates. It's actually going to be from our date received, so 15 days. And if you don't take the discount, you must pay within this number of days after the discount date. Oh yeah, look at this. It says 3/15 receipt of good. Does it say net? It doesn't. So we have to assume that it's going to be, and I wrote it here, it's 20 days after whatever our discount date is. And again, that's the general rule. If it doesn't say net whatever, then it's just 20 days after the discount date. Hey, let's figure out our discount date. Equals, and yeah, receipt of good means start counting from the receipt of good. So we're going to say that date plus, and they're going to give us 15 days. So we'll add 15 days. Enter. What is the due date? Oh, look at this. It doesn't say net anything, so we're just going to add 20 to this discount date, and that'll give us our due date. Equals that plus 20. The blue one is our discount date, and we go ahead and add 20 days. There it is. We got to pay by 10/15, or if we want the discount, pay for 9/25. So if we pay on 9/30, how many days has it been since the invoice was posted? Again, we're going to use our date right here, 9/10. So let's go ahead and see. Equals the later date, this is when we paid it, minus the receipt of good date. Control Enter, Control Shift tilde. If you can't get that control, you hold Control and Shift down together and then tap tilde. You can always right-click Format Cells, or you can Control 1 to go down to Format Cells and use this right here. General is what you need to get back to. Ooh, 20 days. We'll do a little formula here. Equals 20. Is that less than, 15? Ding, ding, ding. False. So do we get to take any discount? No way. So the entire amount that we owe, how much do we pay, is that amount right there. They missed the discount date. Not a good thing. Hey, we have another method here. X. What is X? X is another polite little thing. It's kind of a funny custom. But look at our terms here. 3/10 50x. This is a funny way of saying, hey, we're going to give you some extra days. And the reason why they don't just go, they're going to give us 50 extra days. So we're actually going to have to add 10 and 50 and get 60. You know, why didn't they write just 360? The reason why is because they wanted to emphasize that we're giving you 50 extra days. So there it is. That X and that 50 means you're going to get 50 extra days to get your discount. Hey, there's our 3%. There's the 3. 10 days. There's our 10. 20 days because it doesn't say net. Again, this is the the due date is going to become 20 days after our discount date. And here we have extra. So how many extra? 50. So watch this. Here is our discount date. They originally had 310. If that was the case without the 50x, we'd just add 10 to that. But then they gave us 50 extra. So here we go. Equals the invoice date plus 10. That's the normal. Plus an extra 50. So it's really it's just adding 60. But we put our 10, our 50, we added to that, and there is our discount date, 129. I like that. 1130 all the way to 129. Now the due date, I don't see any net there, so we're going to say equals this and plus our 20. There's our dates. Now, if we pay on 122, there's our payment date. How many days had been since the invoice was posted? Equals our payment date right here. That's the later date minus the earlier date. That's a lot of days. Control Enter and then Control Shift tilde. Cool. 53. Hey, wait. Oh, wait. Hey, well, let's go ahead and do our formula and see if we get the discount, right? Equals our 53. Is that less than, and watch this, since we don't have 60 anywhere, we can just say 50 plus 10. Look at that. That's a logical formula. It'll add that up. Better get 60 there. And 53. Is 53 less than 60? It better be true. I got my fingers crossed. Control Enter. True. Ding, ding, ding. We get the discount. So how much do we have to pay? Equals. We do get this 3% discount. So 750 times our complement times, parenthesis 1 minus, and there's our 3%. And then close parentheses. There we go, 727.50. Oh, but ding, 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 we forgot to do something. Let's come up here. Let's just see, boom, boom, boom. Here it wouldn't trigger any partial pennies, but I'm using my round anyway. R-O-U-N-D. Open parentheses, go to the end, comma 2, and then close parentheses. Control Enter. I'm going to decrease the decimal there. 727.50 is the amount we have to pay. Hey, let's do our last little